wealth taxes are hard. So let's tax income.
That'll be easier. Rich people don't like their income.
Well,
That'll be good. Yeah, that'll be good. We'll just get all the income from the top 1%, right? Because they rely on income. We'll be able to capture that,
Okay. Well,
and that'll work out.
All right, so we'll talk about the problems with this. We'll get to the problems, but a couple interesting facts have come to my attention. So one, in principle, I'm in favor of a wealth tax. I think a wealth tax makes a lot of sense. And unfortunately, when I was doing my research into the constitutionality of a wealth tax, I concluded that it's a toss-up as to whether a Supreme Court selected at random throughout American history would have ruled a wealth tax constitutional or not. And this Supreme Court would almost certainly rule a wealth tax unconstitutional. And it wouldn't even be total bullshit. Like, the Constitution we might need an amendment. And so I'm looking for, practical things. And so we've been doubtful of income tax before. And so the problem. So Phil, can you give me the summary? What in your mind is the problem with an income tax?
If we want to address the inequality of the rich versus the poor in America, it's kind of a bad way to get your money, because the wealthiest individuals in America are business owners who are compensated in ways other than income. They get stock, they get assets other than dollars and cents, and that's like how they make the majority of their money. So the people who are making money as their money are generally the lower economic strata of society.
Right. So that's a very good and interesting point.
Thank you.
Turns out that rich people also have a whole lot of income. So income taxes are one of the most important taxes that we have, that the constitutional problems have already been addressed with a constitutional amendment specifically allowing income taxes. And so I think income tax is an interesting one to discuss, and we'll discuss that. But there are a couple other taxes that my more meta point is that there are existing taxes that are legal that apply to very rich people, and that we should increase and make more progressive, right? And that there should be no legal problem with doing that. And lots of revenue and wealth equalization should result from that. If not, to the level that we want, it should still be a very significant step in the right direction. And so, the main categories of taxes I'm talking about are income tax, capital gains tax, and corporate tax.
But David, Jeff Bezos directly refuted your point this week. He said that if he paid more taxes, it wouldn't help anybody.
Okay, rich people can say stupid things, and they do it all the time.
Name 10 examples.
So what are some of the goals that you have with a wealth tax? Well, there's to raise money for the government to fund social services. And then I think another important goal is to reduce inequality, which sort of would allow normal people to compete for things like houses and retirement capital. And I think that, by raising these various tax rates and making them more progressive, this could be accomplished to a pretty substantial degree. And that would be a big deal. One thing reminded me of, or made me think of this in our discussion not so long ago. We were talking about how Mamdani is balancing New York's budget and how Bill Clinton did it too. And I was like, but did Bill Clinton make any tough choices, or, what did they do? He did raise the taxes. He raised the income tax rate on the top bracket from 31 to 39%, I think.
Rich people never recovered from that blow. To this day, they're still devastated by this horrible imposition.
Furthermore, George W. Bush lowered top income tax rates. So did Donald Trump. The big, beautiful bill made those tax cuts permanent. And permanent. Permanent meaning there's no timer, there's no set expiration. Obviously, right. We will collectively
Congress
rise
could just
up.
Go in and just make a new law that
That's
reverses it.
That's right. So the point is, you can't both think, so Phil, so you do think that the tax changes in the big, beautiful bill inordinately benefited rich people, right?
Well, they did, yeah.
Right. And so similarly, undoing that, there was no, like, this bill didn't include eliminating a wealth tax, right? It worked with it. It made existing taxes lower and more regressive, right?
Right.
Basically. So anyway, I guess by that same logic, it's like, I think a very sensible step to actually just increase some of these taxes.
So what you're saying is just like, if you're going to complain about the big, beautiful bill, you should also be open to like increasing income taxes in a way that kind of like reverses the damage of that.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that sorry, we have these big, like, how the system works kind of problems, and then we have the particulars of the contours of the local landscape sort of problems. And I feel like, a change in the tax, the top rate on the income tax rate on the top bracket, that's like a local particular, whereas our collective inability or unwillingness to tax wealth directly is like something more substantial, or like
Okay.
no,
I mean, it's like,
does it make sense?
yeah,
what I'm trying to say?
Sure, that like, yeah, it's like fiddling with like little changes, not like a long-term structural change.
Yeah,
basically.
that's, I guess what I'm saying is that a lot of damage has been done, in this way, and that damage could be undone. Quick rundown: income taxes, they could be made more progressive, meaning, like, I think our top income tax bracket is around $600,000 of income. Like, there have been years when Elon had billions of dollars of income, of ordinary income. And so probably that should be taxed at a higher rate. We can even have two. You get 90% above 1 million and 99% above 10 million or whatever.
10% above that? I mean, yeah. I mean, that would just like accelerate the trend, I think, of people getting stock options instead of higher salaries. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to see that put into effect. Let's try it. Let's do that shit.
So then there's capital gains. Capital gains are taxed, even lower than income. Capital gains is how, a lot of rich people make a lot of money on realizing capital gains. Like, there's lots of other shenanigans that they do. Those are relatively small compared to just selling their stuff that they had. You have a giant house and you sell it. Yeah.
What is capital gains?
So when you have an asset and you buy it at some price, then time goes by and it becomes more valuable, and that is a gain. That increase in value is the gain on that capital. And when you sell, you are taxed at some rate for those gains. And there are also tax brackets for capital gains, and the top tax bracket is 20%. When Elon bought his shares of Tesla, he bought them for less than a penny or something per share, right? Because he was very, very early. And when he sells them today, he sells them for $300. I believe he sold billions of dollars of shares of Tesla to buy X, and he was presumably taxed at the top rate of 20%. Yeah, so 20% is a ludicrously low rate for the top capital gains rate, even though it enables such innovations as turning Twitter into X. And yeah, so that should be increased. In fact, and it has been decreased, right?
What, you don't think you're getting value in the society by holding stocks and then selling them later? So think of all the innovations we're missing out on if you don't get all of your money from speculative assets.
I mean, I don't think, not all assets are speculative. I mean, I think like there's some serious argument that investment is important, right? And investment, if it's important, then we should incentivize it financially. Like, I get it, but 20% is really low. I mean, and also you can have, we do have brackets, right, for capital gains. Maybe a capital gain over $1 billion should be taxed at 75% or something, something much higher. It's constitutional. It would raise a buttload of money. Okay. Another one, inheritance taxes. Taxing inheritances is legal. It is like it's constitutional. Right now, I think that there is a exemption of $5 million. So like anything less than $5 million isn't taxed at all. I don't remember
David,
the rate. Yeah.
If you tax inheritance, then people will stop having babies because they'll just be like, I can't give my money to these things to carry on my legacy as me, so I'll stop having children. I see no other value in children.
yeah, that sounds like if people don't want to have kids, then they don't need to have kids. And
Plus, that might make things more equal, dude. Like the way it is right now, it's still a little bit like monarchy. Which parents you're born to still has a big influence on your life and how much money you have, right? So we got to keep that around, or we might slip onto full democracy, dude.
Okay, sorry, it took me actually a little bit of time to realize you were being utterly sarcastic. Another obvious problem with inheritance is that there's a step up in the basis of your assets when they're inherited. So this is basically just a gigantic loophole that we should just get rid of. It's obvious. Basically,
have you ever watched Downton Abbey?
Yes, I've watched all of it.
Wow. And you still don't believe in like the value of inheritance.
I mean, I saw that lord, I forgot his name. It's been a couple of years, just standing there, so with the weight of concern because he just is a fucking dope who has no idea what to do with all his money. And like, gosh, it seems like I'm out of money, but that it seemed like that for like 3 seasons. And like, here I am still like with all my shit, no problemo.
And yet the aristocracy persisted.
Right, yeah.
It's so funny to me that pro aristocracy show was so popular and well regarded in America of all places. I mean, I watched it and enjoyed it as well. It's just sort of a funny.
Yeah, I sort of realized late in the series, like, what the hell am I watching here? Like, this is terrible. Anyway.
I've also been watching Bridgerton over my wife's shoulder. So
yeah, but I mean, that's like softcore porn though, so that's different.
Everyone knows if there's boobs in it, you don't have to worry about the unexamined monarchistic themes.
Yeah. One interesting point. So there's a New York Times article that talked about a couple popular concepts that people have of how rich people dodge taxes. And one is, you've probably heard of something borrow die. What is it? It's like
I've never heard of that.
Okay, sorry, the idea is, a way to avoid having ordinary income. If you own $1 billion of stock in some publicly traded company, you take out a loan against it, and you use that to pay for your exorbitant lifestyle. And that's a loan. Right. It's not ordinary income. So you don't have to pay any income taxes on that. Now, you do have to pay back the loan, so you have to get that money from, I guess, another loan, or maybe at some point you actually have to get income, or you need to sell some of your stock for some, capital gains. So basically, people aren't dodging that many taxes with this. Like, the amount of income that the super wealthy have dwarfs this shenanigan. And so it's just kind of like, sure, you could tax loans as income, for example. You could try to do that, but there's not really that much money to gain. Was kind of the argument that they were making.
Would have some knock-on effects if you taxed loans as income.
Right, exactly. And this is like kind of a challenge, like, to bring it back to like a wealth, very similar to a wealth tax. Not only is it unconstitutional, it's actually probably not trivial to design and implement one. Like, not trivial is an understatement. Like, very complicated to design and implement one. Just like it was very complicated and expensive to design and implement an income tax. Like it's a lot of work to, get every employer in the country to fill in a W-2 and like all the software and everything. This wasn't just like a snap of our fingers and we have it kind of a thing. And as like a supporter of a wealth tax, like, it's a big concern that, like, if it's done wrong, then it can, undermine the entire thing. So trying to find some way to block this taking out loans on your stock, like, to avoid income, like you're saying, like, there could be some negative consequences of simple ways of attempting to tax that, right? Like, it might not be that easy to do a good job of using the tax code to prevent that. And it's not as significant of a dodge as just having their top income tax rate lowered. Like, by getting that tax rate lowered from 39 to 31, they're dodging way more. So anyways, we should raise taxes. We should raise our current taxes. And that's the conclusion of this story. Leave a comment if you want.
Caveat on the top income brackets, right?
I think we should have additional brackets, right? Like, there is, $500,000 of income, or 600,000 is a lot different than 10 million, is a lot different than 1 billion. And so I think each of those should have, I would draw a bracket at each one of those points. And if you're if you have more than 10 million of income, maybe 75% rate, and over a billion, maybe 90% or something very high. Because nobody ever needs $1 billion ever. Them and their grandkids grandkids will never need that much money. So yeah, tax that shit. More
Hell yeah.
progressive, higher rates. All right. Well, thanks for joining. If you want your taxes increased, leave a comment. See you next time.
We want people to leave comments, though.
Sorry.
Yeah,
if you
so now they'll
don't.
be really mad and they'll be like, you want me to
Yeah.
increase my taxes? But no, realistically, they'll just be like, you're girls, if they say anything at all.